Hey, it's Mike, Seder 42 Vinyl. I'm going to show you some pickups that I got in December 2018. I'm just going through my collection month by month using Discogs as the catalog or the cataloging of when I bought things. And some stuff it's not 100% in order, but eventually I'll get through everything. We're at 2018 December, so we're kind of staying month to month with 2018 matching 2023, I guess. Hopefully I'll be able to go a little bit faster in the future just to get to the more recent stuff that I purchased. I do plan to do some top lists, top fives, top tens or whatever of 2023 of just things that I bought, some of my favorite stuff that I bought personally. But I'm going to kind of go in the order of things that I liked the best, or like my favorite things that I bought. And this is going to be for rock, hard rock, a little bit of pop, some indie, kind of like everything that's not metal, basically. So I buy a lot of metal. So usually the metal is much bigger of my purchases for the months. But I always buy some random other stuff, like hard rock or indie rock or even pop records, that I like. And I kind of started to discover the genre power pop. And I didn't really... I might have discovered it a little bit earlier than this, but this is like this album that I got here, my favorite album that I bought of, the hard rock indie or whatever, is a power pop album, and it's kind of like the grandfather of power pop albums. So, a lot of bands listen to this album, and I've been a power pop fan even back in the 90s, and I didn't really even know it. It was just more like alternative music, but Matthew Sweet was like one of my favorite artists of the 90s. Girlfriend, Altered Beast, those were like two albums that I listened to maybe the most out of almost anything that I owned at that time. Really, really just like great albums that I really, really love. And I didn't know, I'd heard Matthew Sweet, like I read interviews and stuff like that where he mentioned this band, but I don't know, I just wasn't ready for it, I guess, at that time, because it did sound different. Matthew Sweet was one thing, but this band is kind of another thing. And that band is Big Star. This is #1 album, or #1 record. This is a repress from 2009, a reissue. But this album came out, in April of 72. And this is one of the albums that, musicians and artists at the time who listened to this were really influenced by and started making music like these guys. And then the power pop genre, kind of like the modern power pop genre, or I would not really a genre, it's really a subgenre, either a subgenre or a subgenre, whatever you want to say. But this album was kind of the beginning of that, where, Big Star didn't know that they were doing it, I don't think, but they were definitely influenced by the Beatles and, Beach Boys, things like that, and just rock in general. But this is kind of like almost like really one of the first alternative, rock albums, I guess, as well. I'm sure there was other ones, but, as far as that made an impact on musicians, who get interviewed, they talk about this album. They say, "Hey, Big Star was the band that people got influenced by." So, yeah, I'm not making any like grand statements or anything, but I think that a lot of artists have this album as a touchstone for them when they started creating music themselves, and when they started making music like this, very melodic. Genre subgenres, they're kind of fun to play with, when you hear people describe them, but I think it's just power pop in my, that's how it works in my brain. And I can fit a lot of different bands in there, and I do include this in there. And this was just a needed pickup for me. And this album is fantastic. There's a lot of great songs on here. Obviously, one of the songs was the opening to That 70s Show. I think it was a re-recorded version, though. It wasn't really the Big Star version of it. I don't think. Didn't do my research, of course. So, yeah, just, hugely influential album, and it is a good album. That's Big Star, #1 record. Came out in 1972, a year before I was born. This record's 52 years old or something like that, 51 years old now. Yeah, it's an old record. All right, the next record, and this is an album that I bought at Recyclable Records, I know for a fact, because this was one of my albums that I was missing from this band. And the main reason I wanted this particular album is because it has a song on here that Arjen Lucassen from Ayreon covered on his solo album, Lost in the New Reel. And now there's a song on here that everybody knows, I think, from FM radio that was really popular, charted and everything. But the particular song that was covered that's on here is really, really good too. And Arjen didn't really do a whole lot with it. You know, he didn't do anything really different with it. It was almost a faithful recreation. But it's interesting. I almost forgive it in a way because it made me want to find this album, and I really like this album now. And I don't think I would have liked this album as much, maybe, if I didn't hear it covered from Arjen Lucassen on Lost in the New Reel, and that is Blue Oyster Cult, Fire of Unknown Origin. Now, the song that's covered on there is what's it called? The Veteran of the Psychic Wars. And this album art, it is just fantastic. Lots of detail on this. This art is really great, and all the songs on here are great. And of course, the song on here that everybody would know is Burning for You, which is kind of the odd song out, really, because the rest of this album doesn't sound like that song. There's a lot of synthesizers and stuff on this album. It's not 70s Blue Oyster Cult. This came out in 81. You know, this isn't early 70s, even mid 70s Blue Oyster Cult. This is like Blue Oyster Cult going into the 80s, using, synthesizers and stuff like that, and having a more modern sound, I guess. But it really worked. I mean, this is one band that changed a lot over its career. But yeah, this is a fantastic album. Highly recommend it. It's one of my favorites in my collection. Veterans of the Psychic Wars is an amazing song. Burning for You, I can still listen to that song. I really like that. And yeah, there's a bunch of other songs on here that are really good. I can listen to this whole album and be satisfied with it, even though it's weird and different. It's very progressive, I would say, as well. This is like interesting because when Rush did this, when Rush went synthesizer in the 80s and, did what they did, I didn't like it as much, not nearly as much. Maybe some of the early stuff, the Signals, stuff was because it was kind of almost an in-between in a way. But yeah, once they went full 80s, I just kind of, there's songs I like, but overall I can't listen to those albums all the way through, and I don't really own any of them. But this album, for some reason, it sticks with me. I had this band on my radar. This is an indie artist. I had this band on my radar, but I didn't really want to, didn't pull the trigger on any of their stuff because I wasn't really listening to it, streaming it or anything. But I think it popped up because this album has some creases on the cover and stuff like that. And I think I remember that I bought this as an Amazon warehouse, and that's the band called Japanese Breakfast, and this is Psychopop. This album is really good. It's a really good indie rock album. It's kind of shoegazy, so it's, My Believe Valentine-ish. It just has that kind of sound, but it's dreamy, indie dream pop, rock, alternative. I don't know, again, super duper sub-genre-y here, but really good stuff. And the girl who does all the songs, Michelle Zauner, Zauner. She wrote this. She is Japanese Breakfast, basically. She writes all the songs pretty much. But this album is kind of a response to her mom passing away. And she wrote this song, and the first song is called In Heaven. And it's just basically, about her mom being gone from the house and the dog sniffing around, looking, still smelling her scent and stuff like that. But everything is just kind of gets really discombobulated for her. But it really inspired her as well in a way, to write this album. And it's, knowing that and then listening to the album, you really get a different feeling from it. And the song that I'll play, that I'll play from my record player here, and I'm just picking up audio with my iPhone, so I know it doesn't sound that great, but I'm just hoping that you guys get the gist of what this stuff sounds like. But this song is just really cool. It's one of those songs that I can play over and over and over and over again because it just has that great hook on it, and it just sounds great. It has a great production, and in the chorus and the melody is just immediately like it just sucks you in, and it's very memorable, and it makes you want to hear it over and over again. An earworm, I guess. Really good stuff. Japanese Breakfast. All right, this album is pretty interesting. This is a band called Klaatu. This band has a really interesting history because when this album first came out, a bunch of people, there was a bunch of conspiracy theories that this was actually the Beatles and they had come back as a band called Klaatu. I would say that it's definitely inspired by the Beatles too. It just has that kind of sound to it. But yeah, definitely these guys were not the Beatles. These songs are not Beatles level, I think. Everybody will debate, whether the Beatles are the best or not the best or even anything. I put a lot of respect into the Beatles just because of how influential they are, especially in the power pop genre. Liking power pop as much as I do, the Beatles are the foundation of that subgenre. So anyway, Klaatu has a very interesting story. If you read it on the internet, this album was like really weird, and the band I think they kind of went with it for a little while. Like the members on here were even a little mysterious, And also, I wanted to just mention one other thing, that the Carpenters, Karen Carpenter, redid the song Calling Occupants of Interplanetary Craft. She redid that, and I think it's on the greatest hits. I think it is. She does a great freaking version of the song, of a cover of the song. All right, the next one this is a hard rock album, and this is a modern album. It came out in 2018, and this is a Michigan band. This band actually recorded this album in Hamtramck, Michigan, and they're called Octopus. These guys are kind of, Zeppelin-y, Black Sabbath-y, they're on Rise Above Records, kind of stonery, so you get that vibe when you listen to it, and it's a good record. It's not the best record, and this is their only album, but this is a good album. And the song, which is the title of the album, Supernatural Alliance, is a really, really good song. It's a great single off this album, and I'll play some of that song, but I got this on Purple. And yeah, it came out March 30th, 2018. Yeah, pretty cool stuff. Female vocals on this one. If you're interested in that kind of was a big appeal, of course, for me. Next album, this was actually a sealed album that I got at Hard Boys Records. Like I said, I was starting to shop there. It's a Shocking Blue. It's kind of a greatest hits. It's called Classics, and it has Venus on it, which is pretty cool. And the rest of the songs, I don't, I thought maybe I would know some other songs from these guys, but I really don't. That really was their only hit, as far as I'm aware of. Maybe they were the other song, maybe they had another minor hit or something like that, but I didn't recognize any of the songs on this when I bought it. I knew I was interested though, because I do like the Venus song. Female vocals, of course, that's my jam. Just a couple more. This is another modern 70s band that's called Blues Pills. And this I found really cheap at Hardy Boys. This is I think these guys are from Sweden. And they are, I believe they're from Sweden. And they're, again, a 70s hard rock influenced stoner type band. These guys are on Nuclear Blast, which is really interesting. Nuclear Blast really doesn't have a lot of bands like this. Maybe they have a few. They had one other album after this, and I think that was it. They haven't done anything since. So I don't know if they've broken up or if they've taken a really long hiatus or what.
Lady dressed in gold, she is young, she is old, she's the keeper of the soul, she's called there. Takes you in her arms like a child to a mother, she's her sister, she's her brother, she's there. She is knocking at your door, don't have to run no more. This day I knew was coming. Wasted all my years with all of my fears. Lady dressed in gold, she is young, she is old, she's the keeper of the soul, she's called there. Takes you in her arms like a child to a mother, she's her sister, she's her brother, she's there.
And the last album that I picked up, I had heard this artist on Sirius XM radio in a friend's car or a coworker's car. We were driving, I think we were actually driving to Lunchbox Records, and a song came on and I was like, who is this? I was just like, this is a really good song. And it ended up being Billie Eilish, and it was the song, the King song. I forget the name of the song right now, but that song, it ended up on her new album, but it was like just her single that was in between the album that I'm going to show and her full-length album. And I really got fascinated with the song because I thought the song was so good. And then I went home and I went on the internet and I watched her video for that song where she has spiders on her face and spider in her mouth and stuff. I thought, wow, this chick is creepy and kind of cool, I was like, it's really, really cool. And I watched a couple other her videos. I saw the one with the liquid coming out of her eyes and stuff like that. I was like, how? She drank all the liquid and it came out of her eyes. I was like, this is creepy stuff. Like, she really had a cool vibe to her. And this was before she blew up, but the song, then she had this EP that came out on vinyl, and that's this EP called Don't Smile at Me. It doesn't have that song on it, the song that I wanted, the King song. I can't remember what the fuck name of the song is. I can't remember. I can't believe it. But this is on Red, and this has Ocean Eyes, Bellyache, and Copycat were singles, and this whole album is really good. I really like Billie Eilish on this record. Her and her brother, making music in their small house. They did not expect to get this big this fast. I don't think it was just kind of like one of those things that just kind of happens. It's really interesting, her career, and I really enjoyed her story, about how she came up and how she was recording all this stuff in her room, and how the Ocean Eyes song was just, she put it up on SoundCloud or whatever, and it just, some DJ found it and was like, oh, this is great, and played it. So it was just a really cool organic story for a pop artist. It was just really neat. Billie Eilish is cool. This album is cool. I like Billie Eilish. I'm not against liking pop music. If pop music is good and it sounds good and it has good songs, I can get into it. I can get into pretty much any music that, especially that's melodic and has a hook or something interesting about it. There's very few, there's only really like a couple genres of music or a few genres of music that I just don't touch, but almost everything else I have a little bit of, I guess. Like, I don't have a lot of country, and I don't have like any jazz. Jazz is probably like one genre that I just don't really enjoy at all. It doesn't do anything for my brain at all. I really haven't tried too hard, but everything I've ever heard, nothing that's played that I've heard was like, oh, I want to hear more of that. But other genres I have, I'm starting to get into more rap lately, female rappers in particular. There's just other genres of stuff that I like. I like a lot of different types of pop music. But anyway, that's enough for this video. That's all of the hard rock, pop, indie that I bought and why I bought those records. Cool. Thanks. Bye.